Mike Wire's account of the disaster figured prominently in the CIA's video animation, as internal NTSB documents revealed. He was an important witness to us, and we asked the FBI to talk to him again, and they did. In his original description, he thought he had seen a firework, and that perhaps that firework had originated on the beach behind the house.
They said they had the FBI re-interview him, and on the second interview, he said, oh no, it was up in the high in the sky when he saw it. That's not true. First interview was soon after the crash, a week after the crash. The second interview was a week after that. The CIA wasn't working on this theory in July of 1996. So they made up this story about having had it re-interviewed.
The eyewitness was able to specify a landmark over which the white light first appeared, a house near the beach. So the white light the eyewitness saw very likely was the aircraft briefly ascending and arching over after it exploded, rather than a missile attacking the aircraft.
Once again, the CIA analysis. The conclusion that the eyewitnesses were only seeing the burning aircraft was made at 10 p.m. at night on the 30th of December, 1996. There was a realization, having all the data laid out, that you can explain what the eyewitnesses are seeing with only the burning aircraft. But the animation does not comport with what you saw from here or what you told people you saw from here.
Definitely not.
When the CIA showed that plane climbing, I think it was 3,000 feet, I was flabbergasted.
When I went to the Coast Guard station in East Moriches to give my interviews to the media, I went to a trailer there, which was an FBI trailer. I knocked on the door, they opened the door, and I told them who I was and told them I wanted to give them a statement. They looked around for somebody. There were 5 of them standing there, and they would say, well, you do it, no, you do it, no, you do it, no, you do it, no, you do it. And finally, they picked what appeared to me to be the junior man, and we went into the back room of the trailer where he took out a 2.5 by 3-inch little spiral notepad and a ballpoint pen, and he asked me my name and my address, and I gave it to him. And then he said, what did you see? And I told him the entire story that I've just told you. He wrote nothing down, and when I finished in about five minutes, I said, do you have any questions? And he said no, and I left. Now, that was my sole interview with the FBI.
Nobody with any aviation expertise ever contacted me. It wasn't until I sat down and had a rather extensive talk with Commander Donaldson that anybody asked me any real follow-up probing questions, clarifying what I said. Can you put yourself in this perspective? What did you see? What angle, etc. And that's when it struck me that why hadn't anybody contacted me? I wasn't really looking for my 15 minutes of fame, as Andy Warhol would say, but I just felt that I had information that might have been helpful to clarify exactly what did or didn't happen that night.
I thought this investigation was going to be a slam dunk because there was a lot of activity. I could see ship's lights, I could see aircraft lights, I could see a lot going on out there. 6 months went by and I'm watching TV and they're way off the mark. I called them up. I said, you need to send a technical expert out to talk to me. I got a lot of things I can tell you folks. And they seem to be missing that this plane was not just flying along and then exploded. I didn't even know that plane was out there when long before I see an object miles and miles away, close to the beach, heading outbound. There was clearly a cause and effect there. And he said, oh, do you want to change your story? And I got the impression that he was being a little hostile. And I said, no, I just really think you guys are way off the mark with your investigation and that you need to send some technical expert to talk to me. Because my impression of the 3 that came out to my home was that they were more of a screening committee. They weren't really investigating in detail any of the technical merits of what I may have seen. So, but of course I never heard from the FBI.
That was it.
That was it.
The National Transportation Safety Board holds a public meeting. Not heard any of the hundreds of eyewitnesses to the disaster. Just 5 days previously, FBI Assistant Director Kallstrom, his agency no longer actively involved in the investigation, wrote to the NTSB chairman, Jim Hall. The FBI objects to requests to disclose or include in the public docket the results of any interviews or re-interviews of the 244 eyewitnesses whose reports were examined by the CIA in connection with its analysis, and to calling any eyewitnesses to testify at the public hearing. In the same letter, Kallstrom objected to any public discussion of missiles, bombs, or explosive residue.
The investigators believe after the center fuel tank exploded, the front of the plane tore off, spiraling into the ocean while the rest of the plane kept flying.
As an expert in the field, what's your opinion of that?
I find it highly unlikely, incredible, with the loss of a wing, with the loss of its pilots, cockpit and front end. I believe that it would have tumbled, rolled, and basically dropped like a stone. And this is exactly what the radar data that has subsequently been looked at says happened.
User media 3 years ago, you give to all the world, without any discussion, the explanation that a 747 is able to climb for 3,000 feet at the speed of a rocket without giving any doubt about such an affirmation. And I don't understand that.
After a $36 million investigation, with 95% of the plane recovered, there is still no answer that satisfies everyone. Some who insist the plane was shot down by a missile showed up at today's meeting.
The eyewitnesses who saw a missile shoot down this plane are not being allowed to be heard by this hearing.
When Irvine refused orders to stop passing out flyers, he was removed. Inside, investigators said there is no physical evidence of a bomb.
I take exception to those who consistently distort the record and persist in making unfounded charges of a cover-up.
When you see a streak go up 13,800 feet in seconds, 4, 5, 6, 7 seconds, that's supersonic. It's supersonic. Only a fighter aircraft or a missile can achieve those kinds of speeds. And an investigator can pretty quickly determine, as the FBI guys did, that when you're 8 or 10 miles away and you see something go that high, that quick, it's just a matter of trigonometry. I mean, any high school kid can figure it out.
It's a missile.
It's got to be a missile.
The bottom line was there was no evidence of a bomb or a missile. Now, certainly the world thought that probably that's what happened that caused this tragedy, including the FBI. We thought that it was likely. Whether it was 90% in our own minds or 10% was irrelevant, we had to do the investigation we did, and there just was no evidence of it.
So ends the government investigation. High voltage current jumped to a low voltage wire, igniting vapors in the center fuel tank. At least that's the most likely cause, says the NTSB. Boeing spent millions of dollars of its own money in an unsuccessful attempt to locate such an ignition source. Controversy surrounds the verdict, prompting calls for congressional action and answers about that still July night in 1996.
It's been 4 years since the eyes of the world turned to the waters just right off these shores. And it's been 4 years, but it's still very, very hard to come to terms with the suddenness and the scope of this tragedy.
"230 people have been killed. Families have been devastated. If somebody knows what caused this, You know, rather than talking about vague government people and you know, this witness who doesn't want to give their name or that witness, my goodness, anybody that's responsible and a caring human being, if they knew something had happened, should immediately go to the Department of Justice and share that information.
I give all of the eyewitnesses who saw something come up and enter that plane, come from either the ground, the water, or whatever. So many of them have not only been intimidated by the FBI and possibly other people, but with the CIA's rendition of, no, you didn't see it going from the ground or the water up, it was coming from the plane down. I give them such credit for sticking to their story, for being so tenacious with it. My belief is that the FBI, the government, is lying through their blackened teeth through me. And I don't like it. I'm madder than hell.
I lost my son 4 years ago. I am not speaking only in my behalf. I know that a lot of family from the 230 victims are waiting an explanation also. But if people think I will one time resign, then don't imagine that I don't even started to fight to receive the truth about what happens to this plane and what killed my son. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anytime you take away from the NTSB, which by congressional charter must be in charge, and have the FBI say that they will not investigate or interrogate any witnesses whatsoever, that immediately raises an issue, in my mind, about the politics of it.
We want to have some of the questions answered that have been asked, that have never been properly answered.
In what form?
Well, we have felt all along that it could only come about with a formal congressional hearing where people were put under oath.
If they persist, and they're talking about doing it, they're going to stick with this baloney and put it down on paper. When they sign it, they're targets, because the issue becomes ripe. What I'm saying, fellas, is you do that, you better start lawyering up.
What did bring down TWA 800? Will we ever know for sure?